This article recently appeared in Foreign Affairs magazine, titled "How the Houthis Outlasted America." It says Washington needed an off-ramp, but the group can still imperil the global economy. The author is April Longley Alley, a former senior expert on the Gulf states and Yemen. It's an interesting piece, and today we decided to share it with you. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on this article in the comments below. The author states that after 7.5 weeks of heavy airstrikes on over 1,000 different targets, the Trump administration's bombing campaign against the Houthis in Yemen, just as it suddenly began, also suddenly ended. In a meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, President Trump announced that the Iran-backed Houthis no longer wanted to fight, and America would accept their word and stop the bombing. In fact, Trump put it this way: "We got some very good news last night. The Houthis announced, or at least told us, that they don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to fight anymore, and we respect their word and will stop the bombing. They surrendered, but most importantly, we trust their word. They said they won't blow up ships anymore, and that was our goal with this operation. This is news we just received. It's very positive. They were hitting a lot of ships on various routes, not just in the canal, but in other places too. We accept their word, and the bombing of the Houthis will stop right now." Overall, Trump is a bit random and strange. Let's get back to April's article. He says what's very strange is that the Houthis' position hasn't changed at all since the campaign began. From the very beginning, Houthi leaders had stated that if America stopped its attacks, they would also cease attacking American ships, but they would continue their attacks on Israel. And this is exactly what we observed after the ceasefire agreement. The Houthis clearly stated they would still continue to attack Israel. They've attacked again in just the past few days, so the situation hasn't changed from the beginning until now. The author says, in other words, after a military operation that cost over $2 billion and was supposed to deliver a heavy blow to the Houthis' military capabilities, this ceasefire, in effect, formalized the Houthis' initial position. Although Trump claimed the Houthis surrendered, the group remains in power and declared this agreement a victory for Yemen. The author notes that while the Trump administration was justified in seeking an exit from this burdensome and expensive operation, the path chosen may have ultimately been more detrimental to U.S. interests. The end of the operation brought numerous advantages for the Houthis. Their leaders can now claim they fought a superpower and emerged victorious, and they are no longer under the pressure of American bombing. They can now also concentrate their efforts on Israel, which itself conducts attacks against them. Immediately after the ceasefire was announced, the Houthis emphasized that they weren't the ones seeking a ceasefire. It was America that wanted to halt the bombing. So this too is a victory for them. Their focus has now completely shifted towards Israel. The author states the scale of this operation was unexpected. Operation Rough Rider was Trump's largest and most expensive military intervention to date. The author says Trump's pressure campaign had limitations, and after a few weeks, it began to show its weaknesses. American forces were striking Houthi targets almost daily with a large volume of munitions. The Pentagon claimed to have killed senior Houthi leaders, but there isn't much evidence that high-ranking members of the group's command were actually eliminated. Their core leadership remains fully intact. This means that despite America spending billions of dollars and hitting 1,000 targets, the Houthis' main leadership structure remains sound. Even the airstrikes only temporarily disrupted Houthi infrastructure. Part of the reason for this is that the Houthis have previous experience with war and sieges and have adapted very well. They've learned how to utilize non-military infrastructure and disperse their forces to minimize damage. In short, they are accustomed to enduring. She then continues, "Repeating those heavy attacks was also very difficult for America. Houthi drones and missiles are still being fired at ships, and for defense, America must constantly use air defense systems like Standard 2 and Standard 6 missiles, which are very expensive, each costing several $1 million. This means the Houthis launch a cheap, homemade missile, and America has to respond with a multi-million-dollar missile. The author says all of this prompted America to seek an exit strategy, but the path chosen turned into a propaganda victory for the Houthis. After the operation concluded, the Houthis proclaimed, "We forced America to retreat." This narrative allows them to garner more popular support, especially in regions where America is viewed as the primary adversary. Furthermore, this gave the Houthis more latitude to escalate their attacks on Israel, without the concern of American retaliation. Just recently, we heard that due to American pressure, Israel halted an operation against the Houthis. April suggests that if America genuinely sought de-escalation, it should have pursued a serious diplomatic path from the outset, not engage in an air campaign that was evidently unlikely to succeed from the start. Instead of handing the Houthis a minor tactical victory, we could have increased international pressure, made sanctions more targeted, or tried to involve mediators from Oman or the United Nations. Another crucial point is that the Houthis' capability to attack American or Israeli targets has not diminished at all. The Houthis claim that since March, they have shot down at least 7 American Reaper drones, each valued at around $30 million. On April 28th, an American fighter jet, valued at $60 million, also crashed into the sea. And incidentally, since this article was published, another F-18 fighter jet has reportedly fallen off an aircraft carrier. That means 2 $60 million fighter jets have been lost. I believe they shot down another Reaper drone just last night as well. Despite this, there's no indication that the Houthis' attack capability has diminished. They continue to launch long-range missile attacks towards Israel. In my view, the frequency of these attacks on Israel has noticeably increased. Now that the Houthis are no longer targeting American assets in the Red Sea, it's probable that in the near future their attacks on Israel will become more intense and frequent. Some U.S. officials were concerned that the large number of long-range interceptor missiles used to counter the Houthis, along with the transfer of a Patriot air defense unit from the Indo-Pacific Command to the Middle East, would weaken America's preparedness against the threat from China. And indeed, we are already witnessing the repercussions of this. Even though the immediate focus has shifted from the Houthis, all those American military assets remain in the region. Bombers, F-35s, Patriot systems, THAAD, and aircraft carrier strike groups were all drawn from the Indo-Pacific theater to the Middle East. Despite the ceasefire, these forces are still deployed there and will eventually need to return to the Pacific. The author points out that the Houthis had long prepared for such conditions. They've had years of practice in concealing their leadership and armaments. They also possess a high tolerance for attacks and casualties. The Houthis have successfully diversified their arms supply routes, establishing new smuggling networks that are no longer confined to Iran but also extend into Africa. They are even forging connections with China and Russia, further bolstering their resilience. She says that striking a deal with Iran, which includes a commitment from Iran to stop sending advanced weaponry to the Houthis, could be beneficial. But this too is not a definitive solution. A ceasefire in Gaza could also offer a valuable opportunity to assess the Houthis' commitment to ceasing their attacks in the Red Sea and to exert pressure on the group through coordinated multilateral diplomacy. However, there are no easy solutions to the Yemen crisis, and there is no substitute for a comprehensive and coordinated regional approach. Thank you very much for joining us. What are your thoughts on this article? Please share them in the comments below, and until next time, goodbye.